This is repertoire and reflections, okay? I want to talk about fundamental order. Fundamental does not mean beginner. Let's talk about what fundamental means. Any thoughts, comments, additions? Because in the contemporary world, sometimes people will come to a fundamental class and be like, oh, how many beginner classes do I need to do? And Cassandra told us yesterday, how long were you doing fundamentals before you were invited into a reformer two?
About a year.
About a year. About a year doing this exact order over and over and over and over again. Did you get bored, darling? No.
No.
Why?
Because there's variations, there's like a discipline to starting to feel it in different, like Linda said yesterday, starting to be able to access different muscles and in your body and starting to kind of perfect your own practice. Like, oh, I did really well with this today. I didn't do that last time. Like all of a sudden I can get up a little higher in my ab curl, but I can keep my ribs on the carriage, and it's really mental, I guess, and that mind-body connection just strengthens.
And in classical, do we need to add props to give challenge?
No.
We always in classical move from control to challenge. So now you guys are all intermediate bodies. Think about the first time you did the 100 in mat, knees and tabletop. Then you advance, legs to the high 45. Then you advance a little, legs to the low 45. Then you advance into your advanced body, legs hovered off the floor. It's a challenge at every single progression for the body you're living in. Think about when you guys are teaching for your teachable hours, your parents, your siblings, your cousins. Knees and tabletop is a challenge. Every time you meet the body as it is, you move from control to challenge. When the body is able to maintain control, you layer in challenge. It doesn't mean you can't use a prop. In classical though, we know how to layer in the challenge without choreography and without prop, because we are excellent cuers. We're above industry standard to see how bodies move, right? And we learn how to integrate those cues and those observations to challenge the person in front of us. That's awesome. When you have that, your ability to teach anyone, anywhere, anything soars. Cool. So now let's look at fundamental order. You can write on it, you three if you want. This is your order. Nisha memorized this order. Nisha sits exams for this order. Nisha practice memory. You have to be called or considered classical. And when you're done your exam, if you want to do leg circles before frog, just know your why. If you want to skip supine arm series, just know your why. We talk about that in structured flow, okay? So let's go through what we did yesterday and just have a quick chit chat, catch up meal, and also for a refresher. Footwork. What is our sequence of footwork? What do we start with?
Toes.
Someone cue toes for me. As a teacher, how would you cue toes?
Ball of the foot to the foot bar, wrapping all 10 toes around the foot bar, heels together in a Pilates V, and toes are like fists width apart, knees are in line with hips, inhale on the out, exhale to come back in.
Beautiful. When can you start getting picky about the pinky toe?
Right away.
Right away.
Trick question.
Right away. And it sucks because some people have toes like me, like who was it? Was it Kristen yesterday? I don't want to out her, but she shared it, right? That her pinky toe slides into her other toes.
Yeah.
I call it my torpedo toe. I don't really got a pinky, right? So when teachers are like, put your pinky toe on the apex of the foot bar, I'm like, because it's harder for me to wrap. Doesn't matter if they slip slide later. Nail it from the very first interaction. Also, how are we tactile cueing in toes? What is our touch if we're going to touch the client? The wrap. You want to caress and wrap their toes. Don't push straight down. You're going to hurt somebody. You gently glide your hands, and we'll practice it today. The secondary tactile cue is keeping your hand on the toes. You hug their heels together. You keep that there, and you watch them press out. And then you can remove. Now listen, if you've got 4 people, you can do that because they're going to do 8 to 10 reps. If you have a class of 20, you can't. If you're in Toronto teaching in a class of 30, you can't. And that's okay. You gotta like choose your battles, right? So that's toes. Why do we start with toes?
The organs, the reflexology.
Yeah, the organs. And what's the other reason? Think about our walking gait.
Oh,
People walk wrong. So we're gonna get into this a little bit more in history. We touched on it yesterday. Part of what you need if you want to sit apparatus exam for nationals is you need to understand the history of footwork as well as the reflexology of footwork so that you see it as an integrated system, right? Now, we all walk wrong. We should really be walking heel arch toe, but we don't. We roll different, we internally, we externally. So we start with what we have the most control because we're moving from control to challenge. That's why we do it in footwork. Why we do it in reflexology is what is the kinetic chain? Are we moving down to up with the organs or up to down with the organs? The organs, we're moving. We're going from the top and we're moving down our organ system. In the kinetic chain system, we're moving up. Those are the 3 things we need to remember for the exam. Now, how many other teachers in the industry understand that for footwork? They don't need to. In contemporary, they don't need to. And I don't want to shit on it. You know, I'm trying to be funny. But like the fact that you guys would know that is fantabulous. Organs, kinetic chain, walking gait. Now that you know that, would you ever not start a class with footwork? Right? You wouldn't. So then when other teachers do start a class without doing footwork, you can share that with them. Hey, listen, like I learned about the organ system and reflexology. You know, don't be rude about it, but also understand the why, then people get educated. Not to deviate too much, but another woman I apprentice who's on the reformer course, and she just joined in. So she's with my OGs, the original group. She hopped in with them. I had to catch her up a little because of dates. But she's doing her mat teacher training at a different studio. She wanted to do it with me or with Monica, but dates and times. And at the other studio, they're doing, this woman has her own method. She's named her own method of Pilates, fine. We talked about that in mat, it's not wrong. And my apprentice, C, asked her a question of the why, and the woman was like, I don't know, this is just the way I got taught to do it. And she's paying an astronomical amount of money for that training. And that's not to be mean to the master trainer, but we need to know our whys as classical students, as classical apprentices. When you know the why with why we warm up with footwork, you can razzle dazzle. Because guess what? They can be coming for 8, 10 sessions before you even talk about reflexology. And then on the 10th hour, you'd be like, hey, guess what? Now that you guys know how to wrap your toes, I gotta tell you something. Do you know what that activates? Do you know that activates your circulation? Interesting. Do you know when you move to arches, that's digestion and bladder? That's your detoxification process. Isn't that cool? Aren't you gonna dig deeper into your arch now because you ate those Cheetos yesterday? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like you can be cute about it. Anyway. I didn't, but I did eat pizza and cookies. And if there would have been a beer at home, I would have had one, but there wasn't. I would have had one. All right, so footwork. We go through toes, arches, heels, tendon stretch. What do we have to be mindful about in tendon stretch? What will gym clients think it is? Calf raise. People who go to the gym will think the tendon stretch is a calf raise. Do not let them load up their springs. Do not let them activate from the calf. Who remembers what muscle that runs along the inside that we want to start to cue in tendon stretch that we'll use in the 100? Starts with an S. I think it was on your written exam. Soleus. Right? That muscle right in there. And we want that to be elongated and hug in. We'll look at it in our anatomy book after, okay? So remember in tendon stretch, don't let them think it's calf raises. And if you have a strong man, like I had a basketball player in class this morning, I let him have, everyone was on 3 reds, first of all. I let him have 3 reds and a blue. He was 190 centimeters. Jane, I'm not gonna keep him on 3 reds. But if I loaded up all the springs, it would naturally turn into a calf raise. So I didn't. He could have handled it, but I didn't. We stay within the classical spring load, and we only deviate if we're modifying. I needed to modify. That's not a variation for him. It's just the same way I would modify for someone who's injured or pregnant, okay? All right, from footwork, we go straight into the 100. Why? Why can't we throw something else in the middle there? What is the 100? It's a breathing exercise. Everyone thinks it's abs. It is. We're not wrong, but it's your first fail on your mat exam if you can't cue breath. It is a breathing exercise. So we go from warming up the organs, the spine, the kinetic chain, the feet, straight into breath work. Think of it as such. Now listen, we all have done the 100 a bazillion times. It's hard. It is abs, yes. But it is also their first introduction to opposition. The arms and the legs are reaching long, the abs and the ribs are pulling down. 2 directions. You've got your diagonals and you've got your anchor. And you guys know that from mat, right? Then, from the 100, you have your first series, right? You have supine arm series. It says it in the name. It is for the arms. Very appropriate to cue with back cues. Okay? Because they plug into each other. It is the first series you can omit when you're teaching in real life. Right? Then from supine arm series, we have feet in strap series. I want you to label leg circles and frog. So you can actually label it right on that sheet on your order. Feet in strap series. Are those the only 2 you know? No, and you're going to learn tons more today. Why would we do more feet in strap series if in classical order there's only 2 we offer? What would be my why to give them lower, 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 lift, 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 lower, 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 lift, 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 corkscrew, paint? What would be the why if in classical order there's only 2 offered?
I mean, depending on the duration of your class, if you have to do a
Sure.
15-minute class, you might need to add in some stuff.
Sure, because we all know from Matt and Nisha as well, if you as an instructor are getting paid to teach a 50-minute class, a 55-minute class, or a 60-minute class, sometimes they're 45 minutes. Those are industry standards, 45, 50, 55, 60. How long does it take you to do Matt? 20 minutes, 12 minutes, if you're not doing all the reps. So for sure, to lengthen it, what would be the reason for me hanging out longer in feet and straps instead of maybe hanging out longer in standing series? Why would I offer more repertoire in this series?
More support.
More support. Yeah. We always move from more support to less support. So write it down if you need to. So when you're developing your clients, you hang out in the beginning longer. And then you can start hanging out in the other series longer. Right? Okay, so we did leg circles, we did frog. That's as far as we got yesterday. Today you will be learning more feet and straps. I will be taking you through modifications, variations for supine arm series. And we're going to be doing a whole abs series as well. Remember in classical, the only piece of repertoire for abs is the 100, technically, right? Okay, so let's flip to yesterday's repertoire. So you just flip the page. Pilates teaching manual, reflective workbook, flip to page 2, toes on the foot bar. I want you to make sure you have a star, Neil. Underneath background and history of footwork, it says, in classical order, footwork always comes first. Why? I want you to put a star there because it's on your exam. Because it awakens the connection between breath, spine, and feet, 3 pillars of the method. Under setup and starting position, nothing has changed. Why do we not cue imprint the spine? Because technically we do in a way, especially when we get to heels. Think about that. Your spine will naturally imprint in heels. I'll walk you through it when we get into our movement experience. Why do we not cue it ever in classical, or rarely? Or why would you not cue it in toes? When people start at the very beginning of class, they're already compressed. So they're already in a compressed spinal shape just by daily living. If you ask them to compress their lower back into the carriage without it naturally elongating first and sinking down, you've done a disservice. And then you'll piss off the physio in Cairo because now they have to fix them. Good for their bank accounts, but bad because they just worked for 3 months to get them elongated and now you just messed it up. Right? Think about it. Gravity will naturally imprint the spine if you get them to breathe correctly in footwork. If you're like, inhale, you can already feel along when I'm saying it. Exhale, release, they sink down. Good. Okay, so I just want to make a little note under setup. Say we never ask them to imprint. And I want us to hop to the journaling invitation. We're not going to do it. I just want to read it out so that when we get into our movement experience, you can think about it. So at the bottom of page 3, it says, after completing this sequence, reflect. What did you notice about your alignment and breath today? Did one side feel more dominant or fluid? In what ways did this foot placement influence your posture or mental state? So I want you to be thinking about that. We're just doing a quick review of arches. So flip to page 4. Who can cue arches for me? You can read it or you can remember. How would you cue arches?
Place the arch of your foot, or if you don't have an arch, place the center of your foot on the foot bar.
Yeah.
Wrap your toes around it, hug your heel underneath, and legs are apart, so hip width apart.
That would be a variation.
Oh, that's very
Yeah, that's okay.
So apart or zip together.
Yeah.
And then you're inhaling to push back, exhaling to come in.
Good. In arches, remember, that's the one, at least when you're trained by Hummingbird and the horse, that's the one I want you to emphasize, that the foot and the arch melt into each other. Arches is a melting, heels is a resisting. In arches, the arch of the foot and the foot bar become one. In heels, it's the opposite. They don't like each other. Resistance, resistance, resistance. And we can talk about why. Another good cue for arches is bird on a perch. That is contemporary, but it works. You can think about hugging a branch. Where will people struggle in arches? The wrap. They won't be able to wrap 2 ways. So a go-to for me, and you can use it, maybe I made it up, maybe I got it from someone else, who knows after 22 years of teaching, is I used to talk about Esmeralda, Cinderella's sister who tried to jam her foot in the glass slipper. All right? And then I usually make a joke, like, who would want to marry a prince that doesn't recognize which sister he kissed? Like, I always say it, like, it's an old joke, but it's kind of cute with new clients. But in arches, you want to feel like your foot is breaking in 2 ways. What do we have to be mindful of in the tactile cue for arches?
Not pushing down.
Well, you can actually push down on this one, but look how my hand is. When I push down, I actually have to push down with a wrapped hand. If you flat hand their arch, it's not nice. You're not gonna hurt them, but it's not nice. And the worst thing as a teacher sometimes is when you're feeling so confident with hand cues and you crack someone's toe knuckle. It freaks them out, it freaks you out. It's awkward. It's awkward, you know?
Would you, like, if somebody's, like, got like killing it with the heels under, but struggling with the toe, would you just tell them keep your heels exactly where they are and help them with the wrap?
So
or vice versa?
excellent question. How I cue it with new bodies. It's easier for them to wrap. Focus for the first 4 repetitions on the wrap of the foot over the foot bar. And then you compliment them, even if they haven't earned the compliment. Good job. Now that you're owning the wrap of the foot bar over, keep the wrap while you focus on the heel hug under. Oh, you lost your wrap, that's okay. Just focus on the heel hug for 4 more. And then we will take 1 to 3 slowly, trying for both. Guess what? Next week you'll nail it. They won't next week. Arches are hard. Arches on contemporary machines, it's almost impossible to drop your heel under. It's almost about because the cylinder's thick and they have like sometimes foamy things that rotate or grippy things. It's almost impossible to get a nice heel hug on a contemporary machine. Unless you're Austin, who's a ballerina, or unless you're Cal